This is it, everybody, the moment we have been waiting for. The final episode of the Season 1 of Dragon Age Absolution. All the episodes have been leading towards this explosive climax. All the fights, the build, the character development, and the secrets have been leading us to this point. So does this show stick the landing? Does it successfully capitalize on all the build? That is what we will be answering as we talk about the final episode of Dragon Age Absolution, titled The Price of Salvation. Hello everybody, Weegee here, and as always, spoiler alert, let's get started. The final episode starts off with Hera waking up after the dragon attack, with an unconscious Rosarin nearby. She walks over to him to free herself from her cuffs, before she runs past Lachlan and Roland, ignoring them or not hearing their yelling. She proceeds to jump through the broken wall where she summons this magic ride and zooms off. First of all, is this something mages have always been able to do? If so, why have they not used it more? It was so cool. Imagine how much faster they could get to places if they used it more. It must require an insane amount of energy. That's the only reasonable explanation for why we don't see mages flying around these magic flying boards. Back with Lachlan, he is cursing humans in their stilt legs, before Roland comes up, helping him to his feet, questioning if he is really cursing all humans. This scene is really cute. I love these two as a couple. The show then switches over to Miriam, who is running through the halls looking for Quidian and Hera. Interestingly, she yells for Quidian first, not Hera. She runs into some guards during her search, but she deals with them quite quickly, with some more of those well-hidden daggers before she runs into Quidian. She tells Miriam that she thinks she and the dragon really bonded after she freed it, if you consider spitting fire at someone, then deciding not to kill them as bonding. I love Quidian so much. She asks where Hera is, then the other two show up telling her what happened, and it turns out that Hera's heading towards the safe house. I wonder why. The show cuts over to Tasia, who with a few guards is trying to restore order, when a magistrate comes running down the hall to tell her that there is no way to tame the dragon, as the pedestal sealing it has been destroyed. Then the dragon comes barreling down the corridor, proceeding to blast everybody with fire, which Tasia manages to block with her shield before it flies away. When I first saw the dragon, in episode 2 I believe, I was a bit worried about the animation for it. It didn't look great there, but in this scene it looks so much better. The fire breath looked awesome, and the way that Tasia is able to deflect it, with her essentially using herself as a shield for her allies, was a really cool moment. It clearly takes its toll on her, though, as she collapses to one knee afterwards. The show then cuts over to Rosarin cradling Neb's body, crying, before he uses more blood magic to seal another demon inside of Neb's dead body. Before killing the magistrate that came to tell him about the dragon, to use his blood, plus the blood of the dead guards around him, to use more blood magic to bring the dragon to heal. The guards cheering him on as he does, not knowing about the blood magic part. The only one to put it together is Tasia, who sees the dead body of the magistrate she sent, and she is horrified. She is about to, I assume, confront him before one of her guards approaches her, telling her that they need to restore order. The first part of this scene where he resurrects Neb's body is horrifying, with the way that his body snaps into existence after it enters him. The dialogue here from Rosarin is another big red flag for the kind of person he is. There can be no master without slave, and there is no slave without a master. This once more shows his true feelings on both Miriam and Neb. The whole family brother-sister thing is absolute bullshit. He only views them as his property, as his slaves, as his tools. There is no true love involved in his feelings. Not that he would be able to truly love them, being a narcissist. The tears that he sheds at the beginning are sadness that he lost something that belonged to him. It came from a place of self-interest. This scene finalizes Rosarin's villainous turn as he callously kills one of his own to control the dragon, furthering his use of blood magic. Tasia is right. It always starts as a little bit. Speaking of that scene though, I absolutely love this shot of Rosarin's face as he is using the blood magic to control the dragon, where the symbol appears in his eyes. Holy shit, it looks so good and so villainous. He has truly become a Tevinter Magister. The show then shifts to Hera at the safe house, where she is tearing the place apart looking for something. That something being the artifact, which she puts in her pouch. As she is leaving the safe house, she runs into the others. Miriam is happy beyond belief to see Hera, and runs over and hugs her, then leads her back into the safe house. Hera looks rather distraught for someone who has been reunited with their love. Once back inside, the questions begin to rain down on Hera, as Miriam sees the circulum in her pouch, which she tries to hide. Hira tries to lie to them, saying that she felt that the circulum wasn't safe here, but she is rebuffed by Roland, who tells her that if she didn't tell Rosarin anything, then she didn't need to leave. She tries once again to lie this time, saying she needed to find them, which Miriam rebuffs, saying that she didn't need the circulum to do that. Hira is getting progressively more worried as this goes on. You can see it in her face. Her eyes are shifting back and forth. She's avoiding eye contact, which is a classic sign of somebody lying. It takes her time to come up with her answers as well, which is another pretty big tell. As if she was telling the truth, she wouldn't need to think so much before answering. It's harder for a human neurologically to lie than to tell the truth. The brain actually isn't designed to lie, so it's much harder to do. So hesitating so much before answering simple questions like this is a big sign that she was lying. The way her voice wavers as well is perfect. Her voice actor did such a good job, and the amount of detail to the facial cues of lies by the animators was magnificent. Miriam plays along with her lie, asking her to hand over the circulum now that it is safe, which Hira doesn't do. She actually begins to back away. The show zooms in on Miriam, as the whole picture comes into view for her. You can see the hurt in her eyes as she puts it all together, before she lays everything out. Hira was always planning on stealing the circulum. She had no intentions of delivering it to the Inquisition. Fairbanks knew she was a traitor, which is why she killed him, to cover her betrayal. Hira apologizes before she runs away, with the other three following after her, while Miriam stays behind in shock at the betrayal. I really like this scene. One thing that has been really good in the show is the fact that they have never made the smart heroes, Miriam and Roland, look stupid for plot reasons. Things that should be obvious, they catch on to. They actually use logic to explain things and people's actions. Roland is quick to note the contradiction in Hira's statement. It feels sort of like an Ace Attorney game, sometimes. Another franchise I really love, one that has really good writing. I mentioned before that the dialogue in this feels like it could come from the game itself. This is another one of those scenes. As Miriam and the others are all putting the events together, it feels like when you use the correct dialogue options in the games to uncover a sequence of events. You can see the cogs turning in their heads as they figure it out. Like with this shot of Miriam's eye, it shifts downward as she figures things out as the feeling of betrayal sets in. This is all a breath of fresh air to the typical heroes who have to have stupid moments so that the plot can happen. I love the dynamic duo that is Miriam and Roland. This once again makes me want to have a spin-off about the two, maybe even a comedic one where they go around solving crimes with impenetrable logic. Also, my running theory throughout this season about Hira being a possible traitor was correct. We finally get closure for Fairbanks' actions, something I've been waiting for since the betrayal happened. That felt really nice. I love when I'm right about stuff. Hira tries to escape but is cut off by a firewall created by Quidian. Miriam makes her way out after that and confronts Hira once again, putting a dagger to her throat and taking the circulum, before demanding to know everything. And Hira spills all the beans on her plan. She starts by telling them about how much she admired the Inquisition, with people of all different races and creeds coming together to solve a problem. She figured after they closed the rift, they would help her with her Tevinter problem, but she was wrong. They had no intention of confronting Tevinter, as there would be too much collateral damage. By that I assume they mean that too many innocents would be killed in a war with Tevinter, something Hira clearly doesn't give a shit about. So she found someone else to help her. Someone named the Crimson Knight in Kirkwall. But that's not the only person that she teamed up with. It turns out that she was also in league with none other than a resident narcissist, Rosarin. They had worked together to formulate a plan for them to steal it, where after he completed whatever his ritual was, the circulum was free for her to have. They question her on why he would go along with something like that. Go along with something that would make him look so incompetent. She tells them that she had leverage. Roland asks what she could possibly have that she could use as leverage. Then it kinda clicks in Miriam's head. The leverage was her. I actually came to the same aha moment at the same exact time as her. I was like, holy shit, the leverage is Miriam, isn't it? Hira was planning on selling her back to Rosarin for the artifact. That's why she needed her for the mission. That revelation absolutely shatters Miriam emotionally. She loses the strength to stand. Hira tries to make excuses, telling her that she wouldn't let him keep her, and that she would escape. Before she can make more excuses, Rosarin and the dragon show up, but let's stop here for a second, because holy shit, so much happened in this scene. I didn't actually expect Rosarin and Hira to be in league with each other. I mean, I know I offhandedly mentioned it last episode, but that was a joke because I saw some similarities between the two. The reveal caught me completely off guard. Then we have Miriam's reaction to the betrayal, which was devastating. The way she collapses when she figures out that the person that she is in love with, the person that she thought loved her, was going to sell her back to her master, back to the man that she was afraid of since she was a kid, the person that would take what she values the most, freedom, away from her. To find out that she was betrayed by Hira of all people was too much for her. Holy shit, did the voice actor kill it. The complete despair in her voice was heart-wrenching, and once again the animation perfectly captured that emotion. It's one of the most emotional scenes in the show. It even got me a little misty-eyed. I felt for Miriam. This shot right here is exceptional. You can see the defeat and betrayal in her eyes as it really sets in. God, this scene was so well done. Now let's talk about Hira's character. Her character is a bit more complicated than the rest. On one hand, she bears a lot of similarities to Rosarin, in the way that she will use people to get what she wants. She was after all going to use the woman she loved as leverage for her goals. We see that she will do whatever it takes to get what she wants. In her case, revenge for her family. But unlike Rosarin, there seems to be genuine sorrow in her actions. Like, she does regret what she has to do, but is still going to do it because she is so consumed by her hatred for Tevinter. In a way, I feel like this makes her worse than Rosarin. Rosarin, due to his mother's horrible parenting, has been left with some obvious damage to his ability to love and empathize. After all, if he has never truly felt love, how is he supposed to give that feeling to other people? Hira, on the other hand, clearly has the ability to empathize with others, but actively ignores it to do these horrible things, to try to commit these atrocities. Rosarin actually believes what he's saying. I think he truly believes that Miriam, him, and Neb are family, in whatever twisted form of family that exists in his mind. There is no slave without a master, and no master without a slave after all. That's the family dynamic as he sees it. Hira, on the other hand, knows the kind of impact her actions will have. She knows how much it will hurt Miriam, and the kinds of things that would happen to her if she became a slave again. But she did it anyway. Is it worse if somebody knowingly hurts someone, or if they hurt someone without a conscious idea as to why they are hurting? That's the question here with Rosarin and Hira. Like Rosarin, Hira has a problem taking accountability for her actions. She tries to come up with excuses for her actions, trying to reason with herself, and the others, as to why she had to do what she did. I think their reasoning behind that is very different though. For Rosarin, accepting that responsibility would be admitting that he was wrong, something his ego can't handle. With Hira, I think these excuses are a way of rationalizing her actions with herself, a way to assuage her own conscience that is probably shouting at her how wrong what she is doing is. In the previous episode, I compared Hira to Anders, and I still think that is a fair comparison. Like Anders, Hira is doing something morally wrong to try and push an issue that needs to be addressed sooner or later. With Anders, it was the treatment of the mages. With Hira, it's the corruption in Tevinter. Both also go through with their actions, despite the fact that it will hurt the ones closest to them. It's really unfortunate for Miriam that after she escaped, she wound up with someone so similar to her master. But I suppose that's the psychology of familiarity for you. Before Hira can try to make more excuses, Rosarin shows up, blowing everything up with his dragon, forcing everybody aside from Miriam to retreat back into the safe house. Miriam tries to get him to leave them alone, offering herself back to him with no resistance at all. Miriam at this point has been broken. She no longer cares about the well-being of herself. She only cares at this point about the safety of her friends. The look on her face is of someone who has given up on her life. The betrayal of Hira was the last straw of Miriam's mental state. It's either that or she is trying to play to his ego so that her friends can live. Rosarin isn't taking it though, because why should he bargain for something that is already his? This line is fucking brutal and irrecoverably evil. 100% confirming his belief on Miriam. He tells her that she has made it clear that they aren't family, and that she is only a slave, and the crime for taking a slave is death. He tells her that their deaths are on her head, once again failing to take responsibility for his own actions. While this conversation is happening, our other heroes are trying to formulate a plan. With a great line from Lachlan when he says, "She may not be my favorite, but we aren't letting her go with someone like him." Oh, he does care about Miriam. He's like the stoic dad of the group who can't admit that he loves his kids verbally. I guess that would make Roland the more emotionally available dad of the group, Quidian the older sister of the group, Miriam the younger sister, and Hira Miriam's ex-girlfriend that Miriam is still kind of in love with, but the rest of the family hates. Quidian is confused as to why the dragon is following Rosarin's commands. It doesn't take long for her to figure it out and come up with a plan. Before they can commence this crazy plan, Lachlan finally grows some courage and kisses Roland square on the lips. Woo! Finally, the sexual tension between the two was so thick I could cut it. I'm glad that they waited till the finale to pull the trigger though, as it made it that much more satisfying when it happened. I love Quidion's expression during this kiss. She is completely flabbergasted by this turn of events. If you remember, she did express some interest in him earlier, though I don't know if that was genuine or she was just messing with Lachlan. Either way, this was amazing all around. Back with Rosarin, and he has begun the ritual to resurrect Neb, taking some of Miriam's, Neb's, and his own blood to put into the circulum, which is weird because I thought you had to have blood from the living or someone freshly dead to use it in blood magic, and Neb's been dead for a long time. His blood is even like dark blackish. They all begin to float in the air, but he needs more blood to actually finish the ritual. So he stabs the dragon in the neck, and blood just begins pouring out of the dragon into the circulum. Which I know the dragon's big, but with the amount of blood it loses, I'm pretty sure it'd still be dead. The animators really went all out with the animation for the blood magic, and by that I mean it was sickening to look at. It actually made my stomach turn a bit to look at and made me a little uncomfortable. Which, given what blood magic is, that's a good job on them. After absorbing enough blood, the circulum forms this portal, and out comes Neb's soul. Would you look at that, it actually worked. It only took an obscene amount of blood to get it to do the job. You know, now that I think about it, the person that the spirit mentioned when Rosarin was talking to it was probably Hira. Roland, seeing what is happening, tells him to hold. When Neb comes out of the portal, which I'm assuming is the Fade, that's where the spirits of the dead go, right? He just kind of ignores Rosarin at first and addresses Miriam. He was both happy and sad to see her brother. Rosarin then commands him to return to his body, and he begins to flow over to his body. Miriam gives a tearful speech about how she tried to save him, telling him not to do it, that he can't come back, not to this life, and not to that body. In a way, this is Miriam getting closure for something that she has blamed herself for, his death. She can finally tell him that she is sorry, and finally say goodbye. He reassures her that everything will be alright before destroying his body. At the same time, Roland and crew put their plan into action, which is to blast the hell out of the circulum with a grenade, while Quidion protects Miriam with magic. We get a flash of Neb looking at her sister, and then boom. God, this scene was good. The moment that Neb comes back to life was both simultaneously happy and sad. As you can tell, Miriam is happy to see her brother one more time, but sad because she knows that it's not going to work out, that she has to send him back. That Miriam loves her brother too much to let him come back to this world in a body that's completely fucked up. You can tell how much it hurts Miriam to tell him that she doesn't want him to come back to this world. A world too cruel for one such as her brother, I'm assuming. A small animation detail I loved was that her tears were flowing upwards due to the magic. That was cool. This scene was a freeing moment for Miriam, as she was finally able to apologize for not being able to save him. She was finally able to say the goodbye to her brother that she couldn't before. I think this goodbye helped her move past that moment, to finally really accept her brother's death. As for her brother, I love that in his final moment he decided to comfort his sister, telling her that he loved her. His choice to destroy his body, to rid it completely from this world, as to get rid of any chance of this happening again, shows how much he loved his sister. He chose to give her that closure in his death, over his own chance at life again. He'd rather she live free of any guilt than be alive. This moment is the one that hit me the hardest. I don't know if it's because I'm an older brother, myself, but this scene is the one that got me the most. You can tell from Neb's expression when regarding Rosarin that his feelings towards him aren't too dissimilar from his sister. After the explosion, Miriam and Rosarin engage in a really short battle that ends with her sticking his blade through his throat as he tries to once again call her his property. At first, I was honestly a little disappointed with how short this fight was, but then I started thinking about it, and how fitting it was for a narcissist like Rosarin to die rather suddenly, with no fanfare, rather unspectacularly. He thought himself better than everybody else, thought himself above everything, for his ambitions to be ended so swiftly, with nobody to witness his foul moments, but the one he would try to control, the one that spit in the face of his ego and delusions of grandeur. I could think of no ending more fitting for him. After his fight, all that's left is the dragon, which they decide to spare, with Quidion healing it before it takes off. Seems like she was right, they really did form a bond. Again, while I would have loved for the show to have an epic dragon battle, letting it go fit more with the theme of freedom in the show, with the dragon having been sealed up for centuries. Miriam felt a sort of kinship with the beast. I love Lachlan's comment to Roland when it flies away. You know it's just gonna ravage the countryside, right? I actually spit out my drink when he said that, because he is absolutely right, And Roland's response is perfect. He just shrugged his shoulders, like, why should I care? It's not really my problem anymore. I wonder if we'll meet this dragon in Dragon Age Dreadwolf. After the dust settles on the fight, Miriam turns her attention towards Hera. She tells her that she can't let her hate for Deventer consume her, that she knows what that is like. Then she offers Hera a choice. That she will accept her back, all she needs to do is tell her that she is more important than her revenge, more important than the Circulum. That she will help them deliver the Circulum back to what is left of the Inquisition. Hera denies her request, telling her she wishes she could before using a spell to put them all to sleep, then stealing the Circulum. When they come to, Miriam acknowledges Hera's choice, and decides to go after her to stop whatever this Crimson Knight is planning. Lachlan is the first to say that he is joining her cause, not because it's the right thing to do, or because he cares, it's just because he hasn't been paid yet. Idiots. Gwydion joins in next, then all attention turns to Roland. Miriam tells him that she wouldn't blame him if he didn't want to come. You can see on her face that she really wants him to join. It's an expression that we haven't seen on her face. It's sort of soft and hopeful. I think this means that she has turned the page on her edgy face. He of course says he is coming because he is her best friend. That's what best friends do. He'll join her no matter where she goes. This means I'm getting what I wanted, an adventure with these four. In this scene, she takes off her blue scarf as a symbol of letting go of her past, letting go of the hate for Deventer, letting go of all the anger and sadness that she was holding on to. She has progressed to the final stage of grieving, the acceptance stage. The episode flashes between a few scenes, one of them leaving Deventer to head to Kirkwall, another of Tassia finding Razarin's body, cradling it, tears in her eyes. I feel really bad for Tassia. She actually believed she could change Razarin. She actually believed in him as a person. It's unfortunate because the Razarin that she knew was a persona, a mask that he put on to get into her good graces. He used her kindness and her desire to change Deventer to manipulate her. It's sad because it seems like she's going to try to get revenge for a person that never truly cared about her. The show ends on a scene in Kirkwall where something extremely fucked up has happened, as we see a Templar infected by Red Lyrium, who is also voiced by Matt Mercer. He gives a report to a familiar voice. This is the Crimson Knight Hera spoke of. She says that she will have her war before credits roll. This scene sets up a second season, which I hope it gets. I'm not holding my breath on that though, because this is Netflix. They are notorious for canceling shows after their first season. According to the credits, the Crimson Knight is actually Meredith from Dragon Age 2, which, first of all, holy shit, she is back. That sucks for Kirkwall, clearly. As we see in this shot, Red Lyrium has consumed the city. I hope our friends from Kirkwall are fine. I do wonder if this means we might see some familiar faces in the second season. I doubt it'll be the Hawks, so that would require them to commit to one look. But I could see a Varric or a Meryl showing up. If you haven't played the game in a while and need a refresher, I know Dia2 is less replayed than the other two. She was an extremalist Templar who hated mages. She led a campaign in the game to make all mages tranquil. At the end of the game, she was turned into a husk by Red Lyrium, after putting the Rite of Annulment into effect, which is the right for the Templars to kill all the mages in a circle. That's a pretty fucked up right to have. An interesting note here in the credits, most of the additional voices were done by the actors of the main characters, which is like the most, I know I've made this comparison before, D&D thing ever. It also means that the show was made with a handful of voice actors, probably for budgetary reasons, which is why I assume it only has 6 episodes as well. They ended the show with a bang. All the lead up built up to this episode, and I think they did a very good job sticking the landing. The last major reveal from Hera about her teaming up with Razarin really caught me off guard, but now thinking back, it explains some things. Of course, why Fairbanks attacked her, how they got into the palace so easily, why Razarin knew where our group would be to try to capture them, and why Razarin sent Tassia away so quickly in the cell. It was all part of their plan to steal the artifact. This episode gave us probably our, at least tied for, most heartbreaking moment when Miriam realizes that Hera was going to sell her back into slavery for revenge. It was like a gut punch watching the betrayal wash over Miriam's face. Then to see her kind of just give up on herself to try to save her friends, because the betrayal had her thinking, what is the point? The scene afterward is the one it's tied with, when unexpectedly the ritual actually works, and Miriam comes face to face with the soul of her brother, and she has to tell him he can't come back to this world. You know that had to be hard for her, because it made her finally come face to face with her grief over her brother's death. But this was also very important for her character development, as it finally let her get closure on her brother's death, something she felt was her fault. She finally got to say the goodbye she was never able to, and she got that reassurance from her brother that he loved her, to the very end, that he didn't blame her for his death. This let her finally move on, to finally let go of her grief. This scene is the one that definitely hit me the most. When her brother made the decision not to come back to life, as they found a way to protect her, I honestly teared up a little. And when she breaks down telling him that he can't come back in that body, in this world, I died a little inside. Because you know deep down that she wanted him to come back, but she knew it wouldn't be right, that he wouldn't be able to live with himself with the way it was done. As someone with siblings, this whole scene was fucking wrenching. While the fight scenes and non-fight scene in this episode were very brief, it fit thematically with themes of the show, and with the characters' directions. For all his ambitions and ego, Rosarin suffered a quick and unceremonious end, with Miriam's blade fittingly ending one of his rants, so she wouldn't have to hear him. Then we had the non-fight with the dragon, where they heal it, and it flies away to enjoy its freedom. It fits with one of the bigger themes of the show, which is the freedom of choice. Overall, the final episode of Dragon Age Absolution was almost perfect. The only flaw for me was the lack of an epic fight scene, but I see why that didn't happen. This show absolutely stuck the landing with its character and story. I give the season finale a 9.5 out of 10. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and consider subscribing. Thank you so much for joining me on this adventure. I don't know if I'll do a final thoughts video, as I have already written 56 pages for the show. If I do one, it will be short, as I don't think I have much else to say that I haven't already said. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to watch more of my stuff, I have a review like this for Ruby Ice Queendom, and the first episode of my review for Trails of Cold Steel Northern War should be up. I'll see you next time. Weegee out.